treasure or junk, or someone's creation. Get some background information and find out where it's made in.
This wild scene we're looking at right now is from a book called Ben's Box, and it's by Michael Foreman, obviously a pop-up book. I got this in the 1980s when I was a kid. It's got some pretty cool, look at that, it's got some pretty cool scenes in it. And as it turns out, this Michael Foreman guy, he won a bunch of awards. He's British. He is a writer and an illustrator of this book, and he's done some illustration work for Roald Dahl as well. So I have a lot to get to today in this video, so we're gonna waste no time finding out where this is made. Let's see if this Ben's Box book was made in maybe America, maybe England, because the guy who wrote it is British. Let's find out. Printed and bound in Colombia for Intervisual Communications in Los Angeles. Okay, all right. Colombia, interesting. Okay, I want to say that there's a chance that Dinotopia might be the most famous pop-up book in the world, but I could easily be wrong about that. But yeah, this one is quite nice. This one's very cool, and I believe this sold quite a few copies. This is a pretty cool pop-up book. Okay, I want to point out a few things before I reveal where this one's made. Number one, you can't read it up there, it's too small, but it says that this is James Gurney's Dinotopia. And I looked it up. James Gurney actually has an active blog online that he's kept since I think 2007. And he just writes stuff about himself, other artists. It's pretty cool. I read some of it. I recommend to check that out if you're interested. And also, I wanted to show you that they oftentimes give credit to different things than we might see in a normal book. So like a pop-up art, who that's by, and then like the paper engineer, which I've seen on different pop-up books as well. That's the person who puts together like how these pop-ups will occur. Okay, so now the moment we're all waiting for, let me reveal where this book is made. Remember, the last one was made in Colombia, which was rather surprising. I have not seen many things made in Colombia. Now, this is an American book, I believe. I think that James Gurney is American, and I believe that the publisher is American. Let's find out where this is made. Well, that's a little spooky. This pop-up book is also printed and bound in Colombia, despite being from a completely different publisher and a completely different decade. This is 1993. The last book was from the 80s. This is the Royal Family pop-up book. This one is quite cool. It is by Patrick Montague Smith, and if we open it up, we can see some pretty elaborate scenes here. And this one, like, there's some string here because they're playing with the dogs. And there's little things you can do. Okay, so there must be a pull. Yeah, there's a pull thing here. Pouring a drink for the lady. Let's see, we have a royal wedding. I want to say that's Diana, but I haven't read the text. But that looks like it might be Lady Di. I hope I'm right. I'm probably wrong. Okay, it's time to find out where the Royal Family pop-up book was made. So, presumably it would be nice if this was made in Britain, considering that it is a British book, obviously. So let's take a look, find out where this one is made. We've already had two that were made in Colombia. Let's see. Oh my God. No way. That's truly Halloween spooky. This book was also printed in Colombia. This is insanity, guys. I don't know what's happening in the world of pop-up books. Okay, our last few pop-up books gave me a really good Halloween freakout because they were all made in Colombia. But I have a fourth pop-up book that was in my house. This is my fourth and last. I had 4 of them. And this was a German book. Trains are very big in Germany and in Switzerland. And I used to live in Switzerland, and I had stamps with these trains on it. I had books with these trains on it. I rode on these trains. So I was all about the trains when I was a kid. So I'm sure that this book got a lot of love when I was a kid. So this one, it's very informational. Like, it has a lot of text in it. It has some really cool pop-ups of the, like, this is the pop-up of the station. So that's really cool. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And then it has some little things you can tinker with. This is hard for my adult fingers. There we go. It's a German book. It does have some American sounding illustrators and such. We see on this book that it has the paper engineer and the illustrator, and some of these names sound American. So I believe there were some Americans who worked with the Germans to make this book. And we can see even that the text and illustrations were authenticated by The Railway magazine. And this was made in 1986. And I would think that this would either be printed in America or Germany, but if this was going to be a real Halloween spooky surprise, and I am nervous about this, I think we might see that this was also made in Colombia. So we have one more chance for something that is made in the place that it represents, like Germany. Let's find out if this was made in Germany. Oh my goodness. Printed and bound in Colombia by Carvajal S.A. That is so Halloween spooky. That's insane. We need to find out what's happening with all this printed in Colombia for these pop-up books. This beautiful scenery is Cali, Colombia, and it's where Manuel Carvajal Valencia decided in 1904, specifically October 29th, 1904, to start his newspaper, El Dia, and he turned it into a family business. He had a bunch of family members come in and help him out with this, and they formed Carvajal S.A. That's like saying Carvajal Inc. in America. It means incorporated. So they put out this newspaper, and it was doing well. And at the same time, they started playing around with becoming a paper supply company. At first, they were importing paper supplies and selling them within Colombia, but then they obtained a German paper ruling machine that created lined paper, and they also got a lithographic printing press, so now they were able to make some of their own products. So what they did was they started advertising those products, like lined paper, for sale as, like, school supplies and stuff like that, in their newspaper El Dia. They also set up brick and mortar stores. By 1940, they turned the paper supply and office supply business into its own brand called Norma. They built new warehouses, factories, and stores. They even had a store in Bogota, among other cities. By 1964, and this is important, they created foldables. So we're talking about, little foldable boxes and things like that. And they created an exports department. This is bringing us to the pop-up section of Carvajal's history. So we have foldable paper supplies now, and we have this new exports department. And this was created because in 1964, the Colombian government wanted to be a bigger player in the export business. They wanted to be more international. So, with the country's blessing, they had 2 salespeople go to America and try to sell stuff. So, they went to a bunch of different companies and they tried to get in with Hallmark, but Hallmark was not interested at the time. They wouldn't give them a meeting. And it wasn't until what looks like 6 years later, Hallmark had been working with Japanese companies for their pop-up cards and pop-up books, but I guess they were unhappy with the results. So they went to Carvajal. They said, we want to try something new. We want to work with you. And Carvajal was like, let's do it. They start making all these pop-up books. Eventually they sell in 50 countries and 19 languages. They're off to the races. So all along in Carvajal's history, bit by bit, they're adding new products. So they have the line paper, they have pop-up books, but they also have boxes. They have dishware, like paper dishware, that you might get at Chipotle or something, those paper bowls. They're making plastic items. They're making just tons of stuff, paper cups, like anything you need, they will make it for you. They were working with plastics, you name it. And I'm showing you these pictures right now. These are all pictures of their different facilities. Some of them are offices, some of them are very industrial. It looks like they're even working with some raw materials right at those factory spots. This is a giant operation that they've got eventually. By 1975, in fact, they have production facilities in Chile, Nicaragua, they have an office in New York, and they become a semi-public company as well. So really, at this point, they've become the juggernaut in Colombia that they wanted to become. And ladies and gentlemen, this company is still going strong today. It's a giant company. They're still working with lots of different materials. They're making paper supplies for major US and international brands. This company's doing very well. One thing they don't make anymore is pop-ups. It looks like around the time of 1996 or possibly as late as 2002, they decided to end the pop-up business, mainly because companies started getting cheaper labor in China, and so they started doing the manufacturing more in China for these pop-up books. So that brings me to one more interesting thing that we can take a look at. An article I read said that, sort of at the height of Carvajal's pop-up book boom, so this is 1981, they employed 850 workers. I think the article said women specifically. This tells you a little bit about maybe 1980s culture, but they had 850 workers working for $130 a month. If you break that down, that's about $4 and change a day. If you break that down a little further, that's about 50 cents an hour. I looked it up. In 1981, the American minimum wage nationally was about $3.25. So the labor cost in Colombia was about 1/5 or 1/6 the cost of an American worker. So, these companies, they want to make money, so what do? They say, we don't want American workers to make these pop-up books, we want Colombian workers to make these pop-up books. Well, then Colombia got beat out, and now China's doing it for cheaper. And again, one of the reasons I made this channel is just so that I think to raise awareness so that people understand sort of why this is happening, and you can decide for yourself how you feel about it. But I just thought that was an interesting turn where this company was very successful with pop-ups until, some other country could do it cheaper. Again, this company's doing very well, looks like a cool company, and I know I learned something. I hope you learned something. Pop-up books, until very recently, most of them were definitely made in Colombia.